Hellraiser was one of those late-decade horror flicks that flipped the script on what horror movies could be and do. This movie didn't just show gore at a time when the MPAA was cracking down on the genre. It smashed through taboos and made even the hardcore horror fans rethink what the human body could endure. Pinhead was the creepy villain from the Hellraiser series, which first came to life in Clive Barker's 1986 novella, The Hellbound Heart. When Barker decided to turn this book into the 1987 movie Hellraiser, he initially thought of calling the character the Priest. But here's the thing. The film never actually named him. The people working on the movie started calling him Pinhead because his head was covered in nails, and fans just ran with it. Barker wasn't thrilled about this nickname, but it stuck like glue from here on. Now, who is Pinhead? Pinhead is the head of the Cenobites. These are humans who've been turned into demons with a twisted love for sadomasochistic experiments. They can be found in an extra-dimensional hellish realm and usually get summoned to our world through some pretty gnarly puzzle boxes. The most famous of these is the Le Martian configuration, better known in the movies as the Lament configuration. In Barker's original novella, Pinhead isn't your typical masculine villain. He's described as androgynous and even has a feminine voice. What makes Pinhead stand out from other horror icons of his era is his personality. Unlike silent slashers or those who crack wise while offing their victims, Pinhead is articulate, intelligent, and follows a twisted code of honor. In Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, he even spares a girl who summons him, realizing she's just a pawn in someone else's game. Barker drew a lot of inspiration for Pinhead from classic portrayals of Count Dracula, especially Christopher Lee's version. Pinhead's origins trace back to a 1973 play called Hunters in the Snow, where Doug Bradley played an undead inquisitor. Barker later found inspiration for Pinhead's iconic look from a block of wood with nails casting eerie shadows, a prop from his short film, The Forbidden. Frustrated by how his work was handled in the 1985 film Underworld, Barker wrote The Hellbound Heart, while also working on the screenplay for Rawhead Rex. This novella introduced the Cenobites, whom he called sadomasochists from hell, and it became the foundation for the first Hellraiser movie. In the first Hellraiser, the character's look evolved from Barker's sketches featuring quills to a more budget-friendly design using nails. They used a grid pattern on a life cast to figure out the nail placement, and Barker loved the symmetry. Eventually, thin pins replaced the nails for a sleeker appearance. Although the film credits him as lead Cenobite, the nickname Pinhead caught on among the crew and fans. The name first appeared on screen in Hellraiser 3 and became part of the character's identity, despite Barker's dislike. The 1990s Marvel Hellraiser comics, overseen by Barker, followed the movie canon and included spin-off titles like Pinhead and the Harrowers. In Barker's later works, Cenobites sometimes went by Surgeons, or Order of the Gash. In 2011, boom. Studios launched a new Hellraiser comic series co-written by Barker. Here, only humans call the lead Cenobite Pinhead. Other Cenobites used the Priest, or Hell Priest, with the title and appearance being passed down over the centuries. In Barker's 2015 novel, The Scarlet Gospels, he finally gave Pinhead the official title, the Hell Priest. The book notes that the Hell Priest despises the nickname Pinhead. Things get really interesting in Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, which came out in 1988. Kirsty, our heroine, discovers that Pinhead isn't always a monstrous demon. He used to be human. This revelation comes to light when Kirsty shows Pinhead a photograph, triggering his buried memories. But the revelation leads to his downfall at the hands of the evil Dr. Channard, who has recently become a Cenobite himself. Fast forward to 1992 with Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, and we get a deeper dive into Pinhead's backstory. We learn that before he became this terrifying figure, he was Captain Elliot Spencer, a soldier in the British Army during World War I. The horrors of the war shattered his faith in humanity and God. Imagine surviving such a gruesome conflict only to be left with overwhelming guilt because you outlived so many friends and comrades. Seeking solace, Spencer turned to the more hedonistic pleasures of the flesh, and this dark journey eventually led him to the Hellraiser box, known as the Lament configuration. In the early 1920s, Spencer solves the box. What happens next is both horrific and fascinating. He gets exactly what he sought, a mix of unbearable pain and pleasure, and transforms into the Pinhead we know, complete with nails in his head. This transformation is briefly shown at the beginning of Hellraiser 2. But it's Hellraiser 3 where we see the real split. Pinhead's memories from his human life cause him to split into two separate entities. Elliot Spencer and a super evil version of Pinhead, now free from any remnants of humanity. While Spencer retains some of his human decency, this new version of Pinhead is a pure malevolent force. The movie builds to a climax where these two parts remerge, bringing back the full power of Pinhead, who is then banished back to hell. But there are other perspectives on Pinhead's backstory out there. The Hellraiser comics by Boom. Studios even hint that Spencer wasn't the original Hell Priest and that this ominous title can be passed around. Barker's novel, The Scarlet Gospels, dives deep into whether there's been just one Hell Priest for centuries or if different people have taken on the role over time. Initially, Pinhead just had spikes sticking out of his head, but Barker wanted something more structured, more geometric. So they decided to arrange the pins in a mask-like pattern around his chin, ears, and the back of his head. They modeled this design multiple times and made a ton of drawings until they got it just right. At first, they used pins, but they didn't show up well on camera, so they switched to hollow brass nails, which looked much better. Barker's creative process for the Cenobites was influenced by punk fashion, Catholicism, and visits to S&M clubs in New York and Amsterdam. For Pinhead specifically, he drew inspiration from African fetish sculptures. He even considered giving Pinhead a navel piercing to suggest genital piercings, but that idea didn't make it into the final design. In early 1986, after securing funding, Barker and his producer Chris Figg assembled a team to bring the Cenobites to life. They aimed to create costumes for 5 super butchers and refine the scarification designs with image animation. Instead of using gold or jeweled pins, they opted for black iron nails for Pinhead's head. The lighting design was meant to create swirling shadows around Pinhead's head. By July 1986, the shooting script clearly identified the single pin-headed Cenobite as the leader. In the 2018 film Hellraiser, Judgment, Pinhead's look got a fresh update. Writer-director Gary J. Tunnicliffe described this version as no-nonsense, leaner, and meaner. They incorporated this into the makeup and costume with deeper cuts, longer pins, completely black eyes, and a sleeker wardrobe. The flesh exposed on Pinhead's chest was redesigned as a rhombus in honor of his master, Leviathan. The 2022 Hellraiser remake kept the grid pattern of nails on Pinhead's head. This version also had fully black or bloodshot eyes, and the skin below the neck was flayed in ornate patterns. Unlike previous designs with black robes, this Pinhead was completely naked, with the skin on the legs flayed away and hanging like the hems of a robe. Doug Bradley played Pinhead in the first 8 Hellraiser films. It's fascinating to think that he almost turned down the iconic role to play one of the moving men just to get some face time. In that first Hellraiser movie, Bradley brings so much depth with such minimal screen time. His presence is powerful, yet not rigid, and his voice has a hollow, chilling quality. Even though every line he delivers serves his grim duty, you can sense the exhaustion in his character, which becomes a defining trait throughout the sequels. Eventually, Bradley got so good at applying and removing the Pinhead makeup and costume that he was credited as an assistant makeup artist in some films. The idea was to give Pinhead an aura of complete control without the need for threatening gestures. In the original novella, it suggested that Cenobites may have once been human, but became demonic and sexless through their extreme experiments. Pinhead stands out as one of the most intriguing horror icons, often for reasons that are overlooked. He isn't just a soulless jailer carrying out his duties. He's someone hungry for new experiences, eager to shake things up and see what happens. This is evident in his deal with Kirsty, which he accepts even when the other Cenobites oppose it. He's a character striving to rise above his rank, seeking new knowledge, new experiences, and new power, even if he often fails. It's compelling to watch a character who is so ominous and regal yet endearingly pathetic in his emptiness.